Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Gabe with Indigo Software, genuine Microsoft software for less. In today's video, we're bringing you guys a new CompTIA A+ practice exam. Specifically, this is test version 2 of the CompTIA A+ 220-1102, otherwise known as Core 2 exam. We'll be covering a full 90 questions along with the explanations for the answers. Before we get started with this video, if you're interested in purchasing Microsoft Office, Windows 10, Windows 11, remote desktop licenses, or a wide variety of other Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll leave links down below. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, guys, we're inside of the CompTIA A+ Core 2 practice test version 2. Let's go ahead and get started with question number 1. Which of the following can be used to implement secure physical address to a data center? And the correct answer here is a badge reader. So if we think about what people would be utilizing in a data center in order to grant access, a badge reader should be the first thing that comes to mind. And for the explanation here, badge readers are commonly used for physical access control. Employees or authorized individuals can use security badges or access cards with embedded credentials to gain entry to the data center. This method ensures that only authorized personnel can enter the facility. And for the other options, a geofence is a virtual boundary set up around a physical location. While this can be used for location-based services and tracking, it is not as effective as a standalone method for securing physical access. Alarm systems can provide alerts in case of unauthorized access, but this would not control access on its own. And motion sensors are typically used to detect movement within a specific area, and this can be a part of an overall security system, but it is not a standalone solution for access control. Question number 2. A technician has just finished installing a secondary OS on a workstation. After rebooting the computer, the technician receives the following error: no OS found. The technician confirms the boot.ini file is correct. Which of the following most likely causing this error? Correct answer is D. An unsupported version of Windows is installed. Sorry guys, I had that one wrong. The correct answer is actually an incompatible partition is marked as active. Let's go ahead and go through the explanation here. An incompatible partition marked as active. If the active partition is not set correctly, or if an incompatible partition is marked as active, the system may not be able to find the appropriate bootloader or operating system during the boot process. Now, for the other options, the computer has Grub Legacy installed. This is commonly associated with Linux systems, and while it can be a factor, it's less likely to be the cause of the error related to finding the operating system. Windows startup services are not running. This could lead to boot issues, but not the specific no operating system found error. And then lastly, an unsupported version of Windows is installed. If an unsupported version of Windows is installed, it might lead to compatibility issues, but it's not the most likely cause for a no operating system found error. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Your iPad has an application that will not stop running. What feature/tool can you use to stop it? And if you're familiar with Macs, it's going to be the force quit feature. On an iPad, you can force quit applications that are unresponsive or won't stop running by accessing the app switcher and then swiping up on the problematic app to close it. This action effectively stops the app and allows you to restart it. The other options are kill. This command is commonly used in Unix-based systems and is often executed through a terminal to terminate processes. Task Manager is a Windows tool. Task Manager is a tool found in the Windows operating system. On iPad, the equivalent would be the app switcher, not Task Manager. Close quit. These terms are not standard features or tools on an iPad for force quitting applications. The standard method is using the app switcher and force quitting the app from there. Question 4. If the permissions for a file are rwxrw-r, what permissions apply for a user who is a member of the group to which the owner belongs? The correct answer for this question is read and write. The effective permissions are read and write. From left to right, the permissions are rwx for the user, rw for the group, and r for everyone else. Since the user is only a member of the group applied to the file, they will have read and write permissions. Question 5. Which component of physical security addresses outer level access control? This one's pretty straightforward. The answer is going to be fences. Fences are physical barriers that can be a part of the outer level access control system. They provide a physical boundary to help control access to a facility or property. Access control vestibule. An access control vestibule is typically an enclosed area with separate entry and exit points designed to control access, but it is more of an interior feature rather than an outer level access control measure. Multi-factor authentication is a security method that requires multiple forms of verification for access. While it enhances security, it is not a physical barrier at the outer level. Strong passwords are a cybersecurity measure, but not related to outer level physical access control. As a part of your training program, you're trying to educate users on the importance of security. You explain to them that not every attack depends on implementing advanced technological methods. Some attacks, you explain, take advantage of human shortcomings to gain access that should otherwise be denied. Which term do you use to describe attacks of this type? And this one is similar to how it sounds. The correct answer is going to be social engineering. Social engineering involves manipulating individuals to divulge confidential information or perform actions that compromise security. It exploits human psychology and behaviors rather than relying on advanced technological methods. An IDS, or intrusion detection system, is a technology that monitors and detects potential threats or unauthorized access based on predefined signatures or behavior patterns. It is a technological security measure, not a term for attacks exploiting human weaknesses. Perimeter security focuses on protecting the physical and digital boundaries of a system or network. It's a broader term and not specifically related to attacks exploiting human shortcomings. Biometrics involves using physiological or behavioral characteristics for authentication. While it is a security measure, it's not a term specifically describing attacks exploiting human vulnerabilities. Which type of attack denies authorized users access to network resources? The correct answer here is A, DOS. And the key to this answer, to getting this right when it comes to multiple choice, is memorizing what this stands for. That's going to be denial of service. So a denial of service attack is designed to overwhelm or flood a network, system, or service with traffic, making it unavailable to users. The goal is to disrupt or deny access to legitimate users. A worm is a type of malware that can replicate itself and spread to other computers, but does not necessarily deny access to network resources. A logic bomb is a piece of code that triggers malicious action under certain conditions, but is not primarily focused on denying access to network resources. And social engineering is a technique that manipulates individuals to divulge confidential information or perform actions that compromise security, just like we learned in the previous question. You've discovered that credentials to a specific application have been stolen. The application is accessed from only one computer on the network. Which type of attack is this most likely to be? The correct answer is A, on-path attack. In an on-path attack, an attacker positions themselves on the communication path between the victim and the target system or application. This position allows them to intercept, potentially alter the communication, enabling them to steal credentials or sensitive information. A zero-day attack exploits previously unknown vulnerability in the software before the software vendor releases a fix. It doesn't necessarily involve stealing credentials. We learned about denial of service in the previous answer, and Smurf is a type of network amplification attack that involves flooding a victim with ICMP, ping requests, from a large number of compromised computers. It is not directly related to stealing credentials. A junior administrator comes to you in a panic. After looking at the log files, he has become convinced that an attacker is attempting to use a legitimate IP address to disrupt access elsewhere on the network. Which type of attack is this? Correct answer is A, spoofing. Spoofing involves the use of falsified or legitimate source of address or identified to deceive or manipulate systems, networks, or individuals. In this case, using a legitimate IP address to disrupt access could be a form of IP spoofing, where the attacker pretends to be a trusted entity. Again, social engineering involves manipulating individuals to divulge confidential information that compromise security. A worm is a self-replicating malware that spreads to other computers. It may disrupt access, but the method described in this scenario is not a characteristic of a worm. Password attacks involve attempting to gain unauthorized access to systems by guessing or cracking passwords. This scenario does not specifically describe a password attack. The command cat CompTIA.txt was issued on a Linux terminal. Which of the following results should be expected? Correct answer is B. The contents of the text CompTIA.txt would be displayed. The cat command on Linux concatenates files together. It is often used to concatenate one file to nothing, print the single file's context to the terminal. This is a quick way to preview the contents of a text file without having to open the file in a large application. A technician has been tasked with installing a workstation that will be used for point-of-sale transactions. The point-of-sale system will process credit cards and loyalty cards. Which of the following encryption technologies should be used to secure the workstation in case of theft? The correct answer here is disk encryption. And I'm able to figure that out because we're talking about the workstation in case of theft. So we'll want to have a deep level of security here, and we can achieve that with disk encryption. Disk encryption, also known as full disk encryption, encrypts the entire contents of a disk or storage device. This includes the operating system, applications, and data. In case of theft or unauthorized access to the physical device, the encrypted data remains unreadable without the proper decryption key. Data in transit encryption focuses on securing data as it is transmitted over a network. It is important for protecting data during transmission, but is not related to securing data on a local workstation. File encryption encrypts individual files or directories rather than the entire disk. While useful for protecting specific files, this may not provide comprehensive protection. USB drive encryption is specific to encrypting data stored on USB drives or external storage devices. Let's move on to the next question. A user contacted the help desk to report pop-ups on a community workstation, indicating the computer has been infected with 137 viruses and payment is needed to remove them. The user thought the company provided antivirus software would prevent this issue. The help desk ticket states that the user only receives these messages when first opening the web browser. Which of the following steps would most likely resolve the issue? Here we need to choose two answers. Just a recommendation when you're taking a CompTIA exam, pay attention to how many answers it wants you to choose if there are multiple. So the first thing that we would want to do, based on the context here, it's telling us that the issue is basically local to the web browser. So this might not be a computer virus. It could be some kind of adware or malware. The first thing we may want to do is perform a reset on their web browser, as well as deploy an ad blocking extension to the browser. So deploying an ad blocking extension to the browser helps to prevent unwanted pop-ups, especially those associated with malicious advertisements or scam campaigns. It addresses the root cause of this issue. Resetting the browser can help eliminate any unwanted settings or extensions that may be causing the pop-ups. It's a troubleshooting step to ensure that the browser is in a clean state. Now, when it comes to installing a new hard drive and cloning the user's drive to it, this is unnecessary and too drastic for the described issue. The problem is likely related to software or browser settings. Uninstalling the company-provided antivirus software could leave the workstation unprotected. The goal is to ensure that the antivirus is functioning correctly and is up to date. Click the link in the messages to pay for the virus removal. That's going to be a no-go. Clicking on links like this is strongly discouraged as it may lead to further compromise and financial loss. Users should never engage or pay for services advertised through suspicious pop-ups. A technician is installing a new software on a Mac OS computer. Which of the following file types will the technician mostly use? The correct answer is .app. This file type is associated with Mac OS applications. Applications on Mac are often packaged as .app bundles, which contain all the necessary files and resources for the application to run. Users can typically install applications on Mac by dragging the .app bundle to the applications folder. .deb is a file type commonly associated with Debian-based Linux distributions and is not used for Mac OS software installations. .vbs is often associated with VBS script, which is scripting language primarily used in Windows environments. It is not commonly used for macOS software installations. And .exe, this is an executable file format primarily used in Windows operating systems. Question 14. A technician is investigating an employee's smartphone that has the following symptoms. The device is hot, even when not in use. Applications crash, especially when others are launched. Certain applications, such as GPS, are in portrait mode when they should be in landscape mode. Which of the following can the technician do to most likely resolve the issues with minimal impact? Now, this one is a little bit tricky, but there's really only two steps that we need to take here. Again, we're choosing two. So one of them is going to be auto rotation. We're getting that because some of the apps are in portrait mode and they should be landscape. Then we also need to most likely reinstall the applications that have crashed. Sorry guys, I got that one wrong as well. We were actually needing to close unnecessary applications. And the hint from that, I believe, was that the device was hot when not in use. Let's go ahead and read the explanation. Okay, so again, turning on auto rotation will help us resolve the issue of the device being stuck in portrait. And closing unnecessary applications remains a valid step to free up system resources and potentially address issues related to overheating and crashes. Airplane mode can temporarily disable wireless communication, but it may not directly address the reported symptoms. It's more of a drastic step and may impact the ability to use certain features. A factory reset is a drastic step that erases all data on the device, including installed applications and personal settings. It should be considered as a last resort as it results in data loss. Reinstalling the applications that have crashed. This may be considered if there are issues with specific apps, but it's generally not the first step in troubleshooting unless specific app-related problems are identified. A customer reported that a home PC with Windows 10 installed in the default configuration is having issues loading applications after a reboot occurred in the middle of the night. Which of the following is the first step in troubleshooting? The correct answer is to check for any installed patches and roll them back one at a time until the issue is resolved. Checking for installed patches and rolling them back. If the issue started occurring after a reboot, it's possible that a recent software update or patch caused the problem. Rolling back patches one at a time allows the technician to identify if a specific update is the root cause of the issue. This is a more targeted and less disruptive approach compared to reformatting the hard drive. Installing alternate open source software. This is premature and doesn't address the root cause of the reported issue. Running CPU and memory tests. While hardware issues can cause problems, the reported issues seem more likely to be related to a recent software update. And reformatting the hard drive and reinstalling Windows 10. This is an extreme step and should be considered only after more targeted troubleshooting has been performed. It results in data loss and should be a last resort. In the event of a problem with a Windows computer, which partition is typically designated to house the recovery utility for troubleshooting and repairs? Correct answer here is WinRe. So Windows Recovery Environment is a specialized recovery environment in Windows that provides tools for diagnosing and fixing startup problems, system file corruption, and other issues. It is often stored on a separate partition and can be accessed during the boot process to perform troubleshooting and repairs. Boot configuration data is a database that stores boot configuration information for Windows. While it is crucial for the boot process, it is not a dedicated partition for recovery utilities. The system partition contains the Windows operating system files and is essential for system booting. However, it is not designated specifically for recovery utilities. ESP is a partition used in the UEFI-based systems to store boot-related files. And while this plays a role in the boot process, it is not the dedicated partition for Windows recovery utilities. The chief executive officer at a bank recently saw a news report about a high-profile cybercrime where a remote access tool that the bank uses for support was also used in this crime. The report stated that attackers were able to brute force passwords and access systems. Which of the following would best limit the bank's risk? This question is basically asking us how to strengthen our security in terms of password rules and settings. So multi-factor authentication is always going to be the go-to for this. This is much harder to infiltrate. And then the other one is to enforce account lockouts after 5 bad password attempts. So basically we have 2 fail-safes that are in place if people are trying to log in who aren't supposed to. MFA adds an extra layer of security by requiring users to provide additional verification beyond just a password. This can significantly reduce the risk of unauthorized access, even if passwords are compromised. Implementing account lockout policies, such as locking out an account after a certain number of attempts, helps prevent brute force attacks. This measure can thwart attackers attempting to gain access through repeated password guessing. Limit remote access to destinations inside the corporate network. While limiting access to the corporate network is a good practice, it might not be sufficient on its own. A compromised insider could still pose a threat. Block support accounts from logging in from foreign countries. While this measure might limit the attack surface, it might not be practical for a global bank, and determined attackers can use various techniques to appear as if they are logging in from within the corporate network. Configure a replacement remote access tool. While considering a more secure remote access tool is reasonable, the effectiveness depends on the security measures of that tool. Implementing additional security measures like MFA and account lockouts is still essential. And a password manager can help users create and manage strong, unique passwords, but this might not directly address the risk of brute force attacks on remote access tools. A user reports a computer is running slow. Which of the following tools will help a technician identify the issue? The correct answer is Resource Monitor. Resource Monitor provides detailed information about the usage of system resources such as CPU, memory, disk, and network. It allows the technician to identify which processes or applications are consuming excessive resources, helping to diagnose the performance issue. And for the other options, cleanup is used to free up disk space by removing unnecessary files. While it can improve disk space, it may not directly identify the cause of a performance issue. For Group Policy Editor, this is used to configure group policies on a Windows system. This is not designed for performance issues. And for disk management, this is used for disk-related tasks such as creating, deleting, or formatting partitions, and is not specifically designed for diagnosing overall system performance. Upon downloading a new ISO, an administrator is presented with the following string. Which of the following best describes the purpose of that string? The correct answer is hash verification. The string is most likely a cryptographic hash value generated from the content of a file. Hash functions are commonly used to produce fixed size strings that uniquely represent the contents of a file. Users can calculate the hash value of a downloaded file and compare it with provided hash value to verify the file's integrity. If the values match, it indicates that the downloaded file has not been tampered with during the download process. XSS verification is a security vulnerability related to web applications and does not involve hash values. AES 256 is a symmetric encryption algorithm and is not related to the generation of hash values. And digital signature verification involves the use of asymmetric key pairs, and the provided string does not resemble a digital signature. Additionally, digital signatures are distinct from hash values, although they often work together in secure systems. Which of the control panel applets in Windows 10 and 11 allows system administrators to modify local user account settings? This is going to be user accounts. The user accounts applet in the control panel provides administrators with options to manage local user accounts. From this applet, administrators can create new user accounts, change account types, manage user passwords, and configure other user-related settings. Local users and groups is typically used for managing user accounts and groups, but it is often used in the context of network domains rather than local settings. Security and maintenance. This applet focuses on security and system maintenance, but does not directly provide options for managing user accounts. And user account control is a security feature that helps prevent unauthorized changes to the system. While it plays a role in user account security, it is not the applet for modifying user account settings. A Windows control panel folder containing shortcuts to various system utilities is called. Correct answer is administrative tools/Windows tools. This folder in the control panel provides shortcuts to various system utilities and management tools. It is designed for system administrators to access tools such as computer management, event viewer, task scheduler, disk cleanup, and more. The system option in the control panel provides information about the computer's basic system properties, but does not contain shortcuts to various system utilities. Computer management is a separate tool and MMC snap-in. While it can be accessed through administrative tools, it is not a folder within the control panel. Security and maintenance. This area in the control panel is focused on security and system maintenance settings, but does not contain shortcuts to various system utilities. And indexing options is a specific feature related to file search indexing, but is not a folder containing shortcuts to system utilities. Which of the items in Windows 11 settings allows to modify OS and application permissions? And this is going to be found in privacy and security. This section in the settings provides options to configure privacy settings and security related preferences. Within this section, users can manage permissions for various aspects such as app permissions, camera access, microphone, etc. The apps section allows users to manage installed apps, but it may not cover all aspects of the OS and application permissions. Accessibility is focused on accessibility settings for users with disabilities and does not primarily deal with permissions. And personalization is related to customizing the look and feel of the OS, such as themes and background settings, and does not handle permissions. A technician is installing a private PC in a public workspace. Which of the following password practices should the technician implement on the PC to secure network access? The correct answer is D, require authentication to wake up. This option is particularly relevant for securing network access in a public workspace. Requiring authentication on wake up ensures that the user has to enter a password when the computer comes out of sleep or hibernation, adding an extra layer of security to prevent unauthorized access. Removing the guest account from an admin group. This is a good security practice to restrict administrative access, but may not directly address network access security. Single sign-on disabling might add an extra layer of security, but it is not as specific to network access as the option require authentication on wake-up. And issuing a strong default password for all users. This is a good practice, but it might not be sufficient for securing network access, especially in a public workspace where the individual user accounts are essential. Jack, an employee, took a company-issued Windows laptop home, but is having trouble connecting to any of the shares hosted on his home media server. Jack has verified he is connected to the internet. Which of the following would explain why Jack cannot access his personal shares? Correct answer is that a corporate VPN is enabled. The inability of Jack to access his personal shares on his home media server from his company-issued laptop could be due to several reasons, but one such possibility is that a corporate VPN is enabled. When the company VPN is enabled, it blocks the connections to any local network resources to keep the corporate network integrity. Therefore, Jack might need to disconnect from the VPN to regain access to his local files. A user believes there is a virus on a laptop. The user installs additional real-time protection antivirus software, but is now experiencing extremely slow performance on the laptop. Which of the following should a technician do to resolve the issue and avoid reoccurrence? The answer is to remove the user-installed antivirus software. If the user-installed antivirus software is causing performance issues, removing it can resolve conflicts and improve system performance. It's important to have only one antivirus solution with real-time protection to avoid conflicts. Activate real-time protection on both antivirus software programs. Running two antivirus programs with real-time protection concurrently can often lead to conflicts and slow down the system. It is not recommended to have multiple real-time protection solutions running simultaneously. Operating system updates is essential for security and overall system health, but it may not directly address the performance issue caused by having multiple antivirus programs. Enable the quarantine feature on both antivirus software programs. This is a part of standard antivirus hygiene, but it does not address the root cause of the performance issue. A technician is setting up a new laptop. The company's security policy states that the users cannot install virtual machines. Which of the following should the technician implement to prevent users from enabling virtual technology on their laptops? The correct answer is Secure Boot. Secure Boot is a feature of UEFI firmware that ensures the system only boots from firmware that is trusted by the manufacturer. It verifies the signature of all bootloaders, operating systems, and drivers before running them, preventing any unauthorized modifications to the boot process. This will help prevent users from installing virtual machines on the laptops without authorization. Which of the following security methods best describes when a user enters a username and password once for multiple applications? Correct answer is SSO, or single sign-on. This allows the user to log in once and gain access to multiple systems or applications without the need to log in separately for each one. It provides a seamless and convenient user experience by reducing the number of times a user needs to enter credentials. Permission propagation. This refers to the process of inheriting or passing permissions from one object to another within a system, typically related to access control. Inheritance, in the context of security, inheritance refers to the concept of inheriting access rights or permissions from a parent object to its child objects. And multi-factor authentication, as we learned earlier, involves multiple authentication factors. A technician is setting up a kiosk. The technician needs to ensure the kiosk is secure and users will have access to only the application needed for customer interaction. The technician must also ensure that whenever the computer is rebooted or powered on, it logs in automatically without a password. Which of the following account types would the technician most likely set up on the kiosk machine? And this will be a guest user. Guest accounts are typically used for temporary and limited access, and they are often configured to provide a restricted environment, and users may not have the ability to install software or make significant system changes. Configuring automatic login without a password is feasible for a guest account. The other options are defined as follows. Administrator accounts have elevated privileges and full control over the system. Power user accounts have more privileges than standard users, but fewer than administrators. And remote desktop users, this is typically used for users who need remote desktop access to the system. It does not directly address the requirements of securing kiosk or providing limited access to a specific application. A technician has been asked to recommend antivirus software for a home PC, but the user does not want to pay for a license. Which of the following types should the technician recommend? Correct answer is open license. An open license or free license is the legal statement that allows free content and the software to be free. Since the customer doesn't want to pay for a license, it is important that the user gets a word processing program that uses an open license so that they do not have to pay for their software. For example, OpenOffice is an open license-based software that provides a word processor that can be used on Windows, Linux, or OS X for free. A user's phone contains customer's PII. The user cannot have the phones automatically wiped because the data is very valuable. Which of the following is the best method of securing the phone? And passcode lock is the best method. A passcode lock involves setting a combination of alphanumeric characters as a security measure. This can provide a higher level of security compared to simpler options like swipe or pattern locks. It is crucial to choose a strong and unique passcode to enhance the protection of sensitive data. Fingerprint is indeed a viable and convenient option, but the effectiveness of a fingerprint lock depends on various factors and it may have some considerations. First of all, biometric data storage. This is often stored on the device and the security of this data is crucial. If the phone's security is compromised, there's a risk that the stored fingerprint data could be accessed. In some cases, fingerprint locks might face challenges, for example, if the user has wet or dirty fingers, or if there are technical issues with the fingerprint sensor. It could lead to difficulties in unlocking the device. Depending on the jurisdiction, there might be legal implications or concerns regarding the use of biometric data, and users should be aware of the regulations governing biometric security. All right, moving on to question 31. Which of the following devices are most likely to have a grounding wire attached to them based on the manufacturer's design? And here we're choosing 2. Number 1 is going to be a patch panel. From past experience, I know I'm not likely to see those on any of these 3, a PoE phone, desktop printer, or modem. And I believe server rack is the other answer. And yes, that is correct. Server racks are often designed with grounding features to ensure proper grounding of the equipment housed within them. This is important for electrical safety and to minimize the risk of static discharge. Patch panels, commonly found in network installations, may also have grounding features to ensure proper grounding of network infrastructure. While other devices may also have grounding considerations, server racks and patch panels are specifically mentioned in the context of networking and server environments, where proper grounding is crucial for equipment safety and performance. Which SFC enables a file check that scans integrity of protected system files and attempts to repair corrupted files? Correct answer is /scan now. For this answer, it's helpful to memorize what some of these commands do. Scan now performs a scan of all protected system files, verifies their integrity, and attempts to repair files with problems. It is commonly used to restore system files to their correct versions. Verify only performs a scan but does not attempt to repair any corrupted files. Scan file allows you to scan a very specific file, but it doesn't attempt to repair the file. And verify file, similar to scan file, this switch verifies the integrity of a specific file, but does not attempt repairs. John needs to transfer a folder from one location to another on his Windows computer. He wants to ensure that the copy includes all of the files and directories along with their NTFS permissions. Which command should John use to perform the copy operation and include the NTFS permissions? Correct answer is robocopy. Robust file copy is a command line tool in Windows that is designed for efficient file copying, mirroring, and moving. It can preserve various attributes, including NTFS permissions, during copy operation. The syntax for using robocopy is more versatile and provides options for handling permissions, attributes, and other file properties. Xcopy is another file copying command. Robocopy, however, is considered more robust and provides additional features. Copy is a basic file copy command and doesn't have the same level of flexibility and options. And check disk is a command used to check for and fix file system errors on a disk. It is not used for copying or transferring. Which of the following is used to explain issues that may occur during change implementation? The correct answer here is risk analysis. Risk analysis can help determine the likelihood and impact of various issues that may arise during a change implementation, such as technical errors, compatibility problems, security breaches, performance degradation, or user dissatisfaction. Risk analysis can also help plan and prepare for mitigating or avoiding these issues. Scope changes and modification of the original goals, requirements, or deliverables of a project or activity. Scope change is not used to explain issues that may occur during a change implementation, but to reflect changes in expectations or needs of the stakeholders. End user acceptance is a measure of how well the users are satisfied with and adopt a new system or service. End user acceptance is not used to explain issues that may occur during a change implementation, but to evaluate the success and effectiveness of the change. Rollback plan is a contingency plan that describes how to restore a system or service to its previous state in case of a failed or problematic change implementation. Rollback plan is not used to explain issues that may occur during change, but to recover from them. Jessica is experiencing network connectivity issues and wants to troubleshoot the problem. She wants to measure the packet loss as the packet travels to a specific destination address to identify any potential network issues. Which command should Jessica use to measure packet loss as a packet travels to a destination address and diagnose potential network problems? The correct answer is C, path ping. The path ping command measures the packet loss at each router as the packet travels to the destination address. It combines the ping and tracert commands. The ping command returns a single destination's response time. The NSLOOKUP command is used to resolve DNS addresses. The tracert commands allow you to see how a packet travels to its destination. James recently installed a new copy of Windows on his computer. However, he has not yet activated the operating system with a valid license. Until James activates the operating system, which restriction will be imposed on him as a Windows user? He won't be able to change the wallpaper. That is the correct answer here. Launching applications, running Windows updates, or browsing the internet are not directly affected by the activation status of Windows. Activation restrictions. So when Windows is not activated with a valid license key, users may encounter certain restrictions, and one of the common ones is the inability to personalize the desktop, including changing the wallpaper, theme, and other customization options. Sarah is setting up a new Windows computer for the first time. During the setup process, there is a specific path that configures and creates the user environment, allowing her to customize settings and personalize the system. What is the name of the path that Sarah will encounter during the setup process that configures and creates the user environment? Correct answer is B, OOBE, out of box experience. So trying to remember what this stands for is going to be helpful here. This is the path that is responsible for configuring and creating the user environment during the setup process. The generalization path is where the operating system detects hardware. The specialization path is where the operating system is configured during setup. The WinPE path starts the process of installing the operating system. Where is the boot configuration data stored on a Windows installation utilizing EFI? Correct answer is in the name here, EFI system partition. The EFI system partition is a partition on a data storage device, usually a hard drive or SSD, that is used by the EFI firmware for storing files for the boot process. The BCD store containing boot configuration data is stored on the ESP in EFI base system. The other options are not typical locations for storing the boot configuration data. Windows recovery environment is used for storing the recovery environment. Secure boot partition is a feature of the UEFI that ensures only signed and approved firmware drivers and operating system loaders are allowed to run. And C:\Windows. This is a directory that contains the Windows operating system files, including system files, application files, and user data. While it is crucial for the operating system, the BCD is stored on a separate partition, typically the EFI system partition. What is the maximum number of concurrent connections that can be made to a Windows workstation? Correct answer is 20. In Windows, the maximum number of concurrent connections to a Windows workstation is limited by the licensing terms. Windows 10 Professional and Enterprise editions have a limit of 20 concurrent connections. This includes file and print sharing, remote desktop sessions, and other network-related connections. It's important to note that the number of allowed connections may vary based on the specific edition and licensing of the Windows operating system. Checking the licensing terms and documentation for the specific Windows edition in use is recommended for accurate information. A user reports that a PC seems to be running more slowly than usual. A technician checks system resources, but disk, CPU, and memory usage seem to be fine. The technician sees that the GPU temperature is extremely high. Which of the following types of malware is most likely to blame? The key bit of information here is that the resources are extremely high. We're going to see this often with crypto mining. So I believe, yep, that is the answer. The type of malware that is most likely to blame for a PC running more slowly and having extremely high GPU temperature is a crypto miner. This is a type of malware that uses the resources of a computer to mine cryptocurrency. This can cause the computer to run more slowly than usual and can cause the GPU temp to rise. Spyware is used to spy on a user's activities. This doesn't really cause high GPU temperatures. Ransomware is a type of malware that encrypts a user's files and demands payment to unlock them. And boot sector viruses are a type of malware that infects the boot sector of a hard drive, but this does not typically cause high GPU temps. Which Microsoft Windows operating system component allows to view and manage installed hardware components and device drivers? Answer here is device management, or dev mgmt.msc. Device Manager is a Windows management tool that provides an interface for viewing and managing hardware components and their corresponding device drivers. Users can use Device Manager to update drivers, disable devices, uninstall devices, and troubleshoot hardware-related issues. msconfig.exe is a tool used for system configuration, including managing startup programs and services. appwiz.cpl is the control panel applet for managing installed programs and features on the computer. And finally, computer management, or compmgmt.msc, is a tool that provides access to various system management features, including disk management, event viewer, and device manager. While it can indirectly lead to device manager is the specific tool. In View by Category option in Microsoft Windows Control Panel allows for displaying entire contents of the control panel in a single window, enabling quick access to each control panel applet. True or false? And this is actually going to be false. The View by Category option in Microsoft Control Panel does not display the entire contents of the control panel in a single window. Instead, it organizes control panel items into categories, making it easier for users to locate and access specific settings. When you choose the View by Category option, you'll see a list of categories, and clicking on a category reveals the applets or settings related to that category. And the purpose of this is to group similar settings together for better organization and navigation. Users can click on a category to access specific applets within that category, promoting a more organized and user-friendly interface. Following the latest Windows update, PDF files are opening in Microsoft Edge instead of Adobe Reader. Which of the following utilities should be used to ensure all PDF files open in Adobe Reader? Correct answer is C, Default Apps. Default Apps settings in Windows allows you to specify which application should open specific file types. To set Adobe Reader as the default, you would go to Settings, Apps, Default Apps, and then choose Adobe Reader as the default app for handling PDF files. Network and Sharing Center is a utility primarily used for managing network-related settings and connections. Programs and Features is where you can uninstall or change programs on your computer. And Add or Remove Programs, this is an older name for the Programs and Features utility in Control Panel. And it's used for uninstalling or changing programs, not for setting default file associations. A technician needs to exclude an application folder from being cataloged by a Windows 10 search. Which of the following utilities should be used? This one's pretty straightforward. It's going to be the indexing options. The indexing options in Windows allows you to configure what locations are indexed and searchable. You can customize the indexing settings and exclude specific folders or files from the search index. This is useful if you want to prevent certain folders, such as those associated with specific applications, from being included in the search results. Privacy settings will give you settings related to privacy and data collection. The system settings will give you various configuration options, and device manager is used for hardware devices on the computer. A technician is working with a company to determine the best way to transfer sensitive personal information between the offices when conducting business. The company currently uses USB drives and is resistant to change. The company's compliance officer states that all media at rest must be encrypted. Which of the following would be the best way to secure the current workflow? Correct answer is D. Enable BitLocker to go with a password that meets corporate requirements. BitLocker to go. So BitLocker is a full disk encryption feature provided by Microsoft for securing data on a disk. BitLocker to go extends this functionality to external drives such as USB. Enabling BitLocker to go on the USB drives and requiring a password that meets corporate requirements, the sensitive personal information stored on the drives can be encrypted, providing protection if the drives are lost or stolen. Deploying a secondary hard drive with encryption on the appropriate workstation. This might not address the need for secure data transfer between offices using USB drives. In terms of configuring a hardened SFTP portal for file transfers between file servers, while SFTP is a secure option, it might involve a more significant change to the current workflow, and USB drives are not directly involved in this solution. And requiring files to be individually protected with unique passwords, this relies on user behavior and might not provide a consistent or enforceable level of security. As a part of a CYOD policy, a systems administrator needs to configure each user's Windows device to require a password when resuming from a period of sleep or inactivity. Which of the following paths will lead the administrator to the correct settings? Correct answer is D, use settings to access accounts. So we kind of learned about this earlier, but sign-in options. This path leads to the settings related to signing and security option. In this section, the administrator can find options to configure the requirement of a password when the device resumes from sleep or inactivity. For screensaver and screen timeout settings in general, none of those options will be relevant here. A technician is working at a help desk firm and receives a call from a user who has experienced repeated BSODs, otherwise known as blue screen of deaths. The technician is scheduled to take a break just after the call comes in. Which of the following is the best choice for the technician to make? Correct answer here would be B. This one we're kind of just using our common sense, asking another technician to make the call. Since the technician is about to be on break, it would be responsible and efficient to ask another available technician to handle the user's issue promptly. This ensures that the user receives assistance in a timely manner. The other options have some drawbacks. Politely asking the user to call back could result in frustration. Troubleshooting the issue for the user right before a break might cause delays or lead to incomplete troubleshooting. Input the issue as a ticket and escalate to tier 2. While creating a ticket is good practice, escalating to tier 2 might not be necessary for a straightforward issue. And putting the user on hold for an extended period of time, it may result in dissatisfaction, and it is generally better to address issues promptly. Which of the following is the amount of memory a user is limited to with a 32-bit version of Windows? Correct answer is 4 gigabytes. A department in an organization set up a proxy server to manage its internet stage. A technician is configuring the Windows workstations to use the new proxy server. Which of the following control panel utilities should the technician use to configure the setting? The correct answer is connections. Within the Internet options in the control panel, the Connections tab allows the configuration of proxy server settings. Specifically, you can set up proxy server details by clicking on the LAN settings button within the connection tabs. Advanced security, content, or privacy are not relevant in this case. Which of the following Linux command/utilities can be used to edit an Ethernet connection's configuration settings? Correct answer is IP. The IP command in Linux is a versatile tool for configuring network interfaces, including Ethernet connections. It can be used to view and modify various network-related settings, including IP addresses, routing tables, and more. The other options have different purposes. DD is a command for copying and converting files. apt-get is a package management command used for installing, updating, and managing software packages. pwd is a command used to print the current working directory. An organization is centralizing support functions and requires the ability to support a remote user's desktop. Which of the following technologies would allow a technician to see the issue along with the user? Correct answer here is going to be VNC. Virtual network computing is a remote desktop sharing technology that allows a user to view and control the desktop of another computer over a network. It enables a technician to see the user's desktop and assist with troubleshooting or support. Remote desktop protocol is similar to VNC and allows remote desktop access. Secure Shell is a protocol used for secure remote access to a command line interface. And VPN, or virtual private network, is a technology that provides a secure and encrypted connection over the internet. Within a Linux terminal, you want to see all the files on your system in a long format, including any hidden files which require the A option. Which command should you use? The correct answer here is C. IS is a command used to list directory contents. I is used to display the listing in a long format, and A is used to show hidden files. Therefore, we have IS-IA. Sorry, I was reading that improperly. This is actually 1S, 1A. So these are numbers here. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next question. Company installed a new backup and recovery system. Which of the following types of backups should be completed first? Correct answer here is full. The initial backup performed after installing a new backup and recovery system is typically a full backup. This captures the entire set of selected data, providing a baseline for subsequent incremental or differential backups. It ensures that the backup system has a complete copy of all data at the start of the backup strategy. Once the initial full backup is complete, subsequent backups can be scheduled based on the organization's backup strategy and requirements. Non-parity doesn't refer to a specific type of backup and is not used in the context of standard backup strategies. Differential backup captures all changes made since the last full backup, and incremental also captures changes made since the last backup, either full or incremental. A technician is troubleshooting a customer's PC and receives a phone call. The technician does not take the call and sets the phone to silent. Which of the following best describes the technician's actions? And this one's pretty straightforward. It's going to be avoiding distraction. A technician needs to recommend the best backup method that will mitigate ransomware attacks. Only a few files are regularly modified. However, storage space is a concern. Which of the following backup methods would best address these concerns? Based on what we learned in the last question, the answer should be differential. Differential backup captures all the changes made since the last full backup. It includes only the data that has changed since the last full backup, making it more storage efficient than a full backup. In the context of mitigating ransomware attacks, this offers the advantage of that. In the event of an attack, only the changed files since the last full backup are at risk. Okay, and then offsite backups refers to backups where they are stored at a different location. We've talked about a full backup, copying all selected data. And this, again, is going to be consuming more storage space. And grandfather, father, son refers to a backup rotation scheme with different retention levels, daily, weekly, or monthly. And while it can provide historical backups, it may consume more storage space over time. An incident handler needs to preserve evidence for possible litigation. Which of the following will the incident handler most likely do to preserve the evidence? Correct answer is to clone any impacted hard drives. Creating a forensic copy or clone of impacted hard drives is a crucial step in preserving digital evidence. This process ensures that an exact duplicate of the original data is made, preserving the integrity of the evidence. The original drives can then be securely stored, and the investigation can proceed using the cloned copies. Some of the options have different purposes, such as encryption, contacting the cybersecurity insurance company, or informing law enforcement. The command cat CompTIA.txt was issued on a Linux terminal. Which of the following results should be expected? I believe we had this question already earlier, so this might be a duplicate. And this is the contents of the text would be displayed. Which of the following is the minimum processor requirement for Windows 10? The correct answer is 1 gigahertz. And that's the same for Windows 8 and Windows 7. You create an answer file to aid in installing Windows. Which type of installation are you performing? This would be for an unattended installation. When you create an answer file to aid in installing Windows, you're performing an unattended installation. Drive image installation typically refers to installing an operating system using an image or clone of an entire drive. USB installation refers to installing the operating system from a flash drive. Multi-boot installation involves having multiple operating systems on the same computer. And unattended installation involves automating the Windows setup process by providing answers to prompts and configurations in an answer file, allowing for hands-free or automated installation. For the other options, drive image installation, this method involves creating an image or clone of an entire drive, including the operating system, applications, and data. This is typically used for backup and system recovery or deploying identical configurations to multiple systems. USB installation involves creating a USB flash drive containing the installation files for an operating system. It allows you to install an operating system on a computer without the need for physical media like DVDs. Multi-boot installation refers to setting up a computer to run multiple operating systems. During startup, the user can choose which operating system to boot into, and this is helpful for running different operating systems on the same hardware. Josh needs a more secure partition on his hard drive. Currently, the only partition on the C drive is formatted as FAT32. He cannot lose the data on the drive, but must have a higher level of security, so he is asking you to change the drive to NTFS. Which of the following is the proper syntax for this procedure? The correct answer is going to be C. Convert C : /FS : NTFS. The convert command turns a FAT32 drive into an NTFS drive without data loss, allowing for a higher level of data security. Jerry has a 200 gigabyte hard drive partition, known as C, on a Windows computer. He has 15 gigabytes free space on this partition. Which of the following statements best describes how he can defrag the partition? Correct answer is going to be B. He can run defrag.exe-f on the command line. You need to have 15% free space on your partition to defrag it in the disk defragmenter or graphical user-based utility. So in this scenario, Tom would need 30 gigabytes free on the 200 gigabyte drive. However, you can force a defrag on a partition even if you don't have enough free space by using the -F switch in the command line. One of your customers reports that there's a large amount of spam in her email inbox. Which of the following statement describes the best course of action to recommend to her? Correct answer is B, to advise her to add the senders to the junk email sender list. By recommending this blocks the sender's email addresses. However, this option could take a lot of time, and another option is to increase the level of security on the spam filter within the email program. Any further spam can then be sent to the junk email sender list. Which of the following procedures best describes how to find out which type of connection the printer is using? Correct answer is D. We're looking for the ports tab so that we can find the connection. On the ports tab, you can find how the printer is connected to the computer. This can be a USB, COM, LTP, TCP/IP port. And you might get to this tab by selecting properties or printer properties, depending on the printer. Your customer is having problems printing from an application. You attempt to send a test page to the printer. Which of the following statements best described why a test page should be used to troubleshoot the issue? The most likely answer would be C, that it verifies the connectivity and eliminates possible application problems. The test page verifies connectivity and gives you insight as to possible application problems at the computer that it is attempting to print. In this case, you aren't worried about the quality of the printer output. It is the computer and the application that you are troubleshooting. You use test pages to make sure that the computer can print properly to the printer, not to initiate diagnostic routines. Those would be initiated from the built-in display menu on the printer, or in Windows by right-clicking on the printer and selecting Properties, and then selecting Print Test Page. Printing a test page does not clear the print queue or reset printer memory. You would have to do this at the printer and or at the computer controlling the printer. A user's hard drive seems very slow in its reaction time when opening applications. Which of the following statements best describes the most likely cause of this? This is similar to a question we had just a little bit ago here. The drive is likely fragmented. So the correct answer is C. This is why it is very slow in reaction time. It's also possible that the OS is infected with a virus. You should analyze and defragment the drive and run an AV sweep of the system. Which utility enables you to implement auditing on a single Windows computer? Correct answer is local security policy, keyword single Windows computer. Because there's only one computer, you can implement auditing only locally. And this is done with the local security policy. Which of the following statements best describes the main function of a device driver? The correct answer here is that it allows the OS to talk to the device. Device drivers are the connection between the operating system and the device itself. It is a program that makes the interaction between the two run efficiently. It simplifies programming by using high-level application code. The best device drivers come from the manufacturer of the device. They are the ones who developed this device, so it stands to reason that their code would be the most thoroughly tested and debugged. A first-level help desk support technician receives a call from a customer and works with the customer for several minutes to resolve the call, but the technician is unsuccessful. Which of the following steps should the technician perform next? Correct answer is B, that the technician should escalate the call to another tech. This is exactly why help desks are configured in groups level 1, 2, and masters are level 3 and possibly beyond. Don't try to be a superhuman. In technology, there's almost always someone who knows more than you about a specific subject. First, route the call to the next level tech and let the customer know that you are doing so. Which of the following provides the lowest level of wireless security protection? Correct answer would be to disable the SSID broadcast. Disabling the broadcast is a security precaution, but it only keeps out an average user. An attacker with 2 bits of knowledge can scan for other things the wireless access point broadcasts. Using WEP is more secure than not using any encryption and disabling the SSID. Radius is an external method of authenticating users. It often requires a Windows server. WPA2 is very secure. If you had only one security option you could enable, make it WPA2. A customer uses an unencrypted wireless network. One of the users has shared a folder for access by any computer. The customer complains that files sometimes appear and disappear from the shared folder. Which of the following statements best describes how to fix this problem? Select 2 best answers. These two are both going to have to do with security. So we're going to want to encrypt the router, enable encryption on the router and the clients, and increase the level of security on the NTFS folder by changing the permissions. So again, we're going to use WPA or WPA2 on the router to deny ward drivers and other stragglers access to the customer's network and ultimately any shared folders on the network. Increase the level of NTFS security by changing permissions in the security tab of the shared folder. EFS isn't necessary if you want to set up WPA2 on the wireless access point, but if you are dealing in seriously confidential information, you might consider using it as well. Here's the deal. Share level permissions are rarely modified. NTFS permissions are more configurable, so that is where the bulk of your time configuring permissions will go. Which of the following could be described as the chronological paper trail of evidence? This is going to be called chain of custody. Chain of custody is the chronological paper trail of evidence that may or may not be used in court. First response describes the steps taken when first responding to a computer with prohibited content or illegal activity. It includes identifying exactly what is happening, reporting through proper channels, and preserving data and devices. Setting and meeting expectations deal with customer service. This is something you should do before you start a job for a customer. Data and device preservation is a part of first response. A person who arrives at the scene of a computer incident will be in charge of preserving data and devices in their current state. You are working on a Windows computer that is performing slowly. Which of the following commands should you use to resolve the problem? Select the 2 best answers. The correct 2 answers are going to be DISM and check disk. And if those run into problems, we can try using deployment image servicing and management command. Check disk and FSC can repair problems with the drive and system files, and DISM can repair problems with the system image. Which of the following can be described as removing the limitations of Apple iOS? This is going to be referred to as jailbreaking. Jailbreaking is the process of removing the limitations of an Apple device's iOS. It enables a user to gain root access to the system and download previously unavailable applications, most likely unauthorized by Apple. Which of the following statements best describes how to Apple spray cleaner to a monitor? And typically what we're going to want to do is spray the cleaner on a clean, lint-free cloth first. A lot of companies sell products that are half isopropyl alcohol and half water. You could also make this cleaner yourself. Again, remember to put the solution on the cloth first. Jack, a systems administrator, is setting up a risk management plan for the ID department. Part of the plan is to take daily backups of all servers. The server backups will be saved locally to NAS. Which of the following can Joe do to ensure the backups will work if needed? And the best option out of our choices here would be to frequently restore the servers from backup files and test them. Regularly testing the restore process by performing recovery drills is essential to verify the integrity of all backup files and ensure that the restoration process works as expected. This practice helps identify any issues proactively and ensures that the organization can recover from a disaster or data loss. And for the other options, configuring the backups to restore to virtual machines for quick recovery. This can be beneficial for quick recovery, but it doesn't replace the need for regular testing. Setting up scripts that automatically rerun failed backups. This can help manage the backup jobs, but the focus is on testing the restore process rather than returning failed backup jobs. Setting up alerts can help to notify administrators, but it doesn't replace the need, again, for regular testing to ensure that the backup data is usable. And storing copies off-site is a good practice for disaster recovery, but it also doesn't address the need to test the backup's integrity and effectiveness. A reflective attack attempts to use a broadcast ping on a network. The return address of the ping may be that of a valid system in your network. Which protocol does the reflective attack use to conduct the attack? Correct answer would be ICMP. Reflective attack, which involves sending a ping with a forged source address to a broadcast address on a network, is typically associated with the ICMP. Specifically, the attack uses ICMP echo request packets to generate responses from multiple systems, creating a reflective effect. Therefore, the correct answer is IMCP. TCP is a connection-oriented protocol used for reliable communication between devices. Internet Protocol is a network layer protocol responsible for routing packets across networks. This is a fundamental component of network communication, but the reflective attack mentioned specifically involves ICMP. And UDP is a connectionless protocol often used for communication where low latency is crucial. Your boss needs you to present to upper management the need for a firewall for the network. What is the thesis of your presentation? The isolation of one network from another. Firewalls are primarily designed to provide network security by controlling and monitoring incoming and outgoing network traffic. One of the key functions of a firewall is to establish a barrier between a trusted internal network and untrusted external networks such as the internet. The isolation helps prevent unauthorized access and protects the internet network from various security threats. While firewalls may include features such as packet filtering and inspection for known threats, their primary purpose is broader and includes network isolation. Firewalls may have some capabilities to mitigate certain types of attacks, but again, their primary focus is on controlling the network traffic, and physical security measures such as controlled access to data centers are important, but not relevant here. Which of the following tools checks protected system files? As we learned earlier, this is SFC, otherwise known as the System File Checker. I'll leave up the other explanations that we went over earlier if you guys want to read those. After installing a new hard drive on a Windows computer, Tom tries to format the drive. Windows does not show the format option in disk management. What did Tom forget to do first? That's going to be to partition the drive. After installing a new drive on Windows, the necessary step that Tom likely forgot is to partition the drive. Again, we have check disk here. It's typically not a prerequisite for formatting a new drive. Partitioning again involves dividing the physical disk into logical sections. Defragmentation is a process of optimizing and placement of files on a disk to improve access speed. And then copying system files is not directly related to formatting a new drive. Which Windows system recovery option attempts to automatically fix problems? Startup repair is the correct answer. Okay, so system restore is a feature that allows users to revert to the system files and settings to a previous state. Startup repair is designed to automatically diagnose and fix issues that prevent Windows from starting properly. It can repair problems such as missing or damaged system files, corrupted boot configurations, etc. File history is a backup feature that allows users to automatically back up files over time. It is not specifically designed for fixing startup problems. And then Reset PC allows you to reinstall Windows while keeping your files, but is not an automatic fix for specific problems. Which utility enables you to troubleshoot an error with a file such as this here? This is going to be in our event viewer. The event viewer logs all errors that occur on a system, particularly the system log would contain the information useful in troubleshooting this error. Windows Registry is a database that stores the settings for Windows. It contains hardware and software information plus user settings. If you need to troubleshoot certain dynamic link libraries or ActiveX controls, You can manipulate them with regsvr32 command. Mac OS and Linux use a utility called terminal that allows you to manipulate data and make configuration changes similar to the command prompt in Windows. A technician is installing a program on a Windows computer and the installation fails. Which of the following statements best describes the next step? We may want to run the installer as an administrator. Programs cannot be installed by standard users or guests. You must have administrator rights to do so. You should try to resolve the problem yourself before contacting the manufacturer, but in the end, the manufacturer might not be able to provide meaningful help. Be ready to solve problems on your own. Upgrading to a new version of Windows and reinstalling Windows are a bit extreme in this case. Always remember to install as an admin and, if necessary, run older programs in compatibility mode. The message, "The Windows boot configuration data file is missing required information," appears on the screen. Which command can repair this issue? The option we're looking for is rebuild CD. This command is used to rebuild the boot configuration data store. The BCD store contains boot configuration parameters for Windows. Running this command helps in scenarios where the BCD store is missing or corrupted. It scans for compatible Windows installations and adds them to the BCD store. Fix boot is used to write a new boot sector to the system partition. This is helpful when the boot sector is corrupted or damaged. Fix MBR is used to write a new master boot record to the system partition. This is helpful when the MBR is corrupted or damaged. And boot /BCD. There's a typo in this option. The correct syntax is bootrec/rebuild BCD. You and a coworker are running network cables above the drop ceiling. The coworker accidentally touches a live AC power line and is thrown off the ladder onto the ground. He is dazed and can't stand. He is no longer near the AC power line. Which of the following statements best describes the first step you should take? And the first step, given that we've just experienced an emergency, is going to be to call 911. After this, you would apply first aid and CPR as necessary. The next step would be to shut off the power at the electrical panel or call the building supervisor to have the power shut off. However, it's always important to be aware of and comply with company policies before taking certain actions. A computer you are working on has a lot of dust inside of it. Which of the following statements best describes how to clean this? And in this case, we're going to be using compressed air. Compressed air is safe. However, you might want to do this outside and vacuum up the leftover residue. Or if you are working inside, use compressed air to blow the dust out of the computer while using an anti-static vacuum to suck up the dust at the same time. You are working on a very old printer and it begins to smoke. Which of the following statements best describes the first step you should take? The first thing we're going to want to do is unplug the printer. Turning off the printer might not even be enough, so we're going to pull the plug. Dialing 911 is not necessary unless a fire has started, and wait at least 15 minutes before opening the printer to see what caused the smoke. Power supplies can fail just like PC power supplies can. In fact, a laser printer power supply does more work because it needs to convert for high voltages in the 600 volt range. If you have a maintenance contract with a printer company and the printer is under warranty or contained in the service contract, you would call the maintenance company to fix the problem. Be ready to give a detailed account of exactly what happened. You could tell the printer that it is bad to smoke, but that would be belligerent and it would probably show that you have been working too hard. All kidding aside, be ready to disconnect power at a moment's notice. Which of the following settings must be established when you want to make a secure wireless connection? Select all that apply. We're going to need the encryption standard used and the SSID of the access point. The SSID takes care of the connection portion and the encryption takes care of the secure portion. After all computers are connected, consider disabling the SSID for increased security. Which of the following statements best describes a common risk when installing Windows drivers that are unsigned? And it's that the system stability may be compromised. Unsigned drivers haven't undergone the testing and certification process by Microsoft. Installing unsigned drivers can potentially introduce compatibility issues and compromise the stability of the operating system. Files might be cross-linked. This is generally not a direct risk associated with installing unsigned drivers. The drive might become fragmented. Installing drivers, whether signed or unsigned, is not related to this. Physical damage to devices might occur or poorly, while incompatible or poorly written drives could potentially lead to malfunctions in connected devices. The risk of physical damage is minimal. In Windows, when will a computer dump the physical memory? It's going to be D, when the computer detects a condition from which it cannot recover. If your computer fails and it cannot recover, you'll usually see some type of critical or stop error. At this point, you must restart the computer to get back into the operating system, unless it is configured to do so automatically, which is the default setting. The reason for the physical dump of memory is for later debugging. The physical dump writes the contents of memory to a file on the hard drive. When a person takes control of a session between a server and a client, it is known as what type of attack? This one's going to be just like it sounds, session hijacking. This involves intercepting and taking over an existing session between a server and a client. Attackers may use various techniques to gain unauthorized access to a user's session. DDoS, or distributed denial of service, we talked about this earlier. This involves overwhelming a system or network with traffic to make it unavailable. It doesn't involve taking control of an existing session. Brute force, we also talked about earlier. This is attempting to gain access by trying as many combinations of passwords as possible. And malicious software refers to software designed to harm or exploit systems. While certain types of malware can be involved in session hijacking, the term is more general and doesn't specifically describe taking control of an ongoing session. So that's it. We've gotten through all 90 questions. We're wishing you guys the best of luck on your CompTIA exam. All right, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions about anything we've covered, drop those in the comments below, and we'll get back with you as soon as we can. Again, if you're interested in purchasing genuine Microsoft software at a great price, be sure to check out Indigo Software. We'll leave those links down below. As our channel continues to grow, we're constantly looking for new video topic ideas to make. If you have any topic suggestions of your own, we'd love to hear what those are. Most viewer commented requests get made into actual videos. Lastly, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated, as it helps to support our channel. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys next time.